Hi everyone, thank you for joining us again. It's a Sunday today, so officially day of rest, but we are doing all the normal things again today. David is gonna start off today just by talking through how we are isolating here and how we're trying to work within the confines of the social distancing and everything the government are advising us to do.
So we're just conscious a little bit about letting everyone know how we are managing to do the things that we're doing safely with the current virus situation. So we just thought we would have a minute to explain where we're situated in the park and how that works. So behind me is Park Farm. This is where we're based. We're right in the middle of the safari park. For those that don't know, the safari park is about 400 odd acres on one side of the Knowsley estate, which is about 4,000 acres. And considering that we're only 7 or 8 miles outside of Liverpool, we're actually in a very rural location. If I just kind of scan round this way a little bit, you can see behind me there's some bits of rhino section, and then over on that side is baboon section. And as I keep going round, you'll get this sense that we are kind of very much literally in the middle of the park. So where we are based, where we're living is really quite rural. There's only myself and Janet and a couple of other people up at the farm, and we are all effectively self-isolating in the middle of the park. And we're only really interacting with the keepers, which of course are coming in every day like essential workers in terms of looking after the animals. But we're all operating with a 2-metre safe distance and all the kind of precautions that we should be doing just to try and keep ourselves and everyone else safe. So we're very conscious of the fact that we're getting to film all these lovely things, and some of you guys may be stuck at home, and we don't want you to think that we're being irresponsible in the way that we work. So it's a lovely place to be, and very fortunate for us, we are pretty insulated against everyone else outside in the wider world.
So for the photography today, we headed out onto the Safari Park Drive, and we wanted to go and visit the group of European bison that we have here. Now, we have 5 boys at the moment, a bachelor group, non-breeding group, and it's actually been quite tricky to see them over the last week or so because they are normally quite accustomed to cars going through that section on the drive. But in the last 2 weeks, of course, the park being closed has meant that's very quiet for them. So as soon as one of the staff cars or keeper cars go in, they are heading straight over, assuming that they're going to get some food. So we needed to get some help from the keepers today. So they were able to put some food out on the grass to give us a nice angle and a nice background for the photography. And we were able to bump the vehicle off the road onto the grass, line the shot up nicely, hopefully keeping a safe distance, and do some photography of the bison having their morning snack.
So we're just out in the woodland loop section with the fallow deer and the European bison, and the keepers have put some food out and we bumped over on the grass. The problem being we have to try and keep out the way of the bison because they would have no problem at all banging the car up a little bit, scratching the car. So we're just watching the bison and just trying to kind of move out the way so that we're getting the shots but not getting in trouble either. Just coming now. That's a better spot probably.
Just a quick update on the pellets that we found yesterday. We didn't manage to get anything on the trail cams, but we're going to move them about again for tonight, so hopefully we might get somewhere with that. So with that in mind, we decided to have a look at some of the pellets and see if we could figure out who we think is casting them. We used some field guides to help us with this, and initially we were thinking that they would be little owl pellets because they were very small, and we've seen a little owl around an awful lot. But actually, upon looking at the guide, the little owl pellets are small, but normally brown and quite crumbly, whereas what we had was a small grey pellet. Tawny owl pellets can be quite grey, but much larger in size than this pellet. And given that this little pellet tapered off at the end and did have some fur sticking out, leads us to think that maybe this is a kestrel pellet. So much smaller than the tawny owl pellet and completely different colour and structure to the little owl pellet. So to help us try and back up the conclusion that it's a kestrel, we did decide to take one of the pellets apart. So we very carefully just prized one apart to see what it was actually made up of. And what we found mostly was just feather. There wasn't an awful lot in the pellet itself. We did find a couple of bones, and reading through the guide that we had, that does support the theory that it is a kestrel. So the way that kestrels eat normally is that they will pick their food, so pick the meat off of the bones, so that way you don't get many bones in the pellet. Whereas a tawny owl would normally, with something that's quite small, just swallow it in one, so you'd get an awful lot of bone in that. They don't tend to pick the meat off of their food, so you find many more bones in their pellets than you do with the kestrels. So again, looking at the guide, we tried to determine what few bones we had might be, and we think that it was probably vole bones. Just from the shape of them, the guide is brilliant, so it shows you the shape and type of bones that you can get in the pellets to help you identify things. So we wouldn't have been looking at feather of small birds or anything, but obviously fur from the voles. So that does lead us to believe that it maybe is a kestrel. But we really are hoping that we'll get some trail cam footage to back that up. From having a quick chat with the bat guys, some of the birds of prey do predate on bats, although kestrels would normally be a daytime bird, so maybe not, but we'll put those trail cams out again in a different place and see what we can find.
So that's about it for today. We hope you've enjoyed those couple of updates. Back again tomorrow. Again, we're not quite sure what tomorrow's going to bring, so a bit of a surprise. So as always, we hope you're home and staying safe, and we look forward to seeing you all again tomorrow.